Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Andrew with Tight Lines Fly Fishing in Parsippany, New Jersey. Today we're going to be tying a Grannom Caddis. And I first want to start by showing you the hook we're going to be using and explain what we're doing here. So this is a TMC 100 size 14. It's a standard dry fly hook, okay, and a 14. This is a number 181160. Now it does look smaller, but I've got my hook eyes lined up. And if you were to straighten this hook out, I'm going to tie all the way down to this bend on this this is a Klinkhammer hook. I'm going to tie all the way down to this bend here. And if you were to straighten that hook out, it'd be about the same size as this hook. So you can see there's a lot less metal. It's going to float better. And it's also going to be a little bit easier to disguise the hook from the fish. So we're going to use this hook. And a Grannom Caddis, it's a pretty large caddis early in the spring that hatches. Something you should have in your box. And I'm going to just start my thread. Now the thread I'm using is a Veevus 12-0. I just want a nice fine thread so I can finish the fly nice. And I'm using a pale yellow because it was in my bobbin, but also I'm going to color the thread at the end with a magic marker. And I'm going to put a green egg sac on here, and I want to make sure that that egg sac remains nice and bright. So if I put a dark colored thread underneath it, it might darken up on me. So I'm going to put a little dubbing on the hook, and the dubbing we're using, this is a McKenzie green from Spirit River. It's a UV2 fine and dry dubbing, really good dubbing, and this color is really good for this egg sac. If you look at a Grannom egg sac, it's essentially this color, kind of a pastel green, if you will, almost this identical color. Just going to start that. It's a little bit of a tricky hook because of the shape of it. So a little egg sac in the back, not too big. Next step, we're going to take 2 Peacock herls. And the first thing I'm going to do with them is I'm going to fold them over right here at the bottom. This is going to make it a little bit easier for me to spin these. I need to be able to spin these up here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wire. I'm going to just pinch, and I've got a long piece of wire, about 8 inches going this way, and I'm just going to start to wrap that wire around the Peacock herl. And then I'm going to pinch the Peacock herl with the wire up like this. And I'm going to start to twist this. And I'm basically going to twist this all the way down. And don't worry about the beginning there, it's all doubled up. We're not going to use that. That's just to make it easier to start the twisting action. I find it easier if you double those ends over to get it going, because the quills are kind of flat on these Peacock herl. Sometimes you can't get it to start to roll. But you see I'm just twisting that wire right into the Peacock herl. Okay, so I brought that, and I've got a nice Peacock herl rope. That's not going to break on me, nice and strong. And I'm just going to tie that in right back here. And then I'm going to immediately move that hook up in the vise. Don't get your thread in there. And you can see, if you look right about there, there's a definitive bend. I want to go right to that definitive bend. And that's going to be the stop point for the beginning part of my Peacock herl. And you can see how nice that Peacock herl is to wrap with that wire. And it's going to be nice and strong. That's not going to break on you. So we're going to take it right to there, 1 thread wrap. We're going to bring that out of the way. Next step is going to be to take a brown hackle. I like a decent quality hackle with a high barb count and a fine quill, because I want to get a nice so you can see here a nice high barb count, fine quill. This way I can get couple extra turns in there, make it nice and dense. But these better quality hackles tend to have a little bit finer barb on them, and just really nice to tie with. Doesn't mean you have to buy the most expensive necks, but whiting is certainly a good way to go. Whiting necks are just very good. And you know, the pro grades and bronze grades are excellent. So I'm just gonna bring that back a little bit more, and you can see now I've got that area flat. And I'm gonna continue with my Peacock herl. And I don't wanna crowd the eye, so I just wanna go to about right about there. And then I'm gonna tie that off. And then we're gonna start our hackle. And we want to get a fair number of turns in here. I don't mind this nice and dense. We're going to trim a lot out of it, so out of the top and out of the bottom. One more turn in there. Okay, so now we're going to take a V out of the top. And a V out of the bottom. We're going to take one CDC feather. Now I've got a nice dense feather here. You can use one dense feather. If you have smaller feathers that aren't quite so dense, you could use two. And I'm just going to peel that back a little bit. And I'm going to tie that in right here, just maybe 3 loose wraps, and just tuck that underneath. And I'm tying it in with the curved side down. And I want that to kind of match up with the back of the green. Right about there is good. Maybe a touch shorter. And I'll just give a couple extra turns to lock that in, stand that up good, trim that nice and close. Now you can take and just cut a little V out of the back if you want. You don't have to do this, but a little tough to get that back cut with your left hand, but a little V out of it. And then we're going to take a hen neck, and what we're looking for is a nice dark hen neck. If you look at a Grannom Caddis, they're like anywhere from a dark dun to kind of a brown shade, a little bit of mottling in the wing. So one of these feathers looks really nice. Let's see, maybe take one a touch bigger. So something like that. I like this neck because it's kind of a rectangle shape rather than a big wide one. Sometimes the wide ones need a little bit extra cuts to make the wing look right. So I'm just going to strip this bottom away. And I'm going to take my little tinfoil book. I've got a tinfoil book here with some UV glue in it. And I'm going to lay that feather in there. And I'm going to pull it through. So the glue I'm using is a Solarez UV glue. You can use Dave's Flex Cement, Wapsi Flex Cement, any kind of a Flex Cement. You just do your feathers ahead of time and let them dry. Maybe set them down on something so they don't open up, back up too much. See how that kind of pulled it a little bit narrow? That's kind of what we're looking for. And then we want to hit that with our UV light. Make sure you get that underside good so it doesn't stick to itself. I find if you just run your hand down it a couple times, you can even wet your fingers a little bit. It's a little less likely to stick to itself. It's not wet, but sometimes it'll just kind of, when you fold it over, it kind of gets stuck a little bit. So I'm going to fold it right down the stem. And then now a Grannom Caddis has a pretty big wing, right? It's a pretty big bug. It's like a solid 14, you know, down to a 16. Some people tie them on 12s. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut that at an angle this way. I want to make sure I leave that wing pretty long, not too sharp, right about on a 45-degree angle. And then we can kind of just nip that and just kind of round it a little bit right there. And that's a good wing for your Grannom Caddis. And then that's going to lay right on top. I'm going to fold that over. And I want to set that wing pretty far back, okay? They've got a long wing. It's a big fly. So I'm going to just do a couple wraps right there. Stand that up. And then trim that. And then I'm going to take a bronze mallard feather, and I'm going to take, if you strip the bottom, it makes it easy to count how many barbs you're getting, and it makes it easy also to remove them. Okay, so I got 2 of them, and I'm just going to tie those in with the curve up about the length of the body. You want to tie those right, and I like to put a couple thread wraps just underneath them there. And then we'll splay them, and when we glue the head, we'll kind of glue those splayed. And you'll see once we color that head, how it's going to look a lot better. I'm just going to take a brown magic marker and just color that head. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a little bit, I like Zap-A-Gap. The only thing with Zap-A-Gap, if you get it in the eye of your hook, you got to get it out, because if it dries in there, you'll never get it out. But just a little touch of that. Just be careful you don't get it in your eye. And if you do get it in your eye, not your eye, but not your eye, but the hook eye, then just use, if I can find one laying around, just a Hackle stem to clean that hook eye out. Okay, so I just got a bare Hackle stem laying around, and I'm just going to make sure that there's no glue in that. And there's your Grannom Caddis, and that hangs down in the water. It's got everything about it is very realistic. You know, you got the legs that help make it float, support it there. The wing lays flush on the water with that egg sac hanging down, that peacock curl. Very irresistible fly to the fish. Thanks for watching. Hope you tie some, and good luck.